Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a cloudy but absolutely roasting day in Scotland. And as you saw in the last video, the RS is ready for the road. Just need to wait on some paperwork coming through before I can actually get it on the road. So let's turn all our attention to the GTR. So before we start stripping the car down, let's take a look in the boot, because I haven't actually looked inside there yet. Right, so what goodies have we got hiding in here then? A lot of extra vinyl wrap. Bin bag. What would appear to be the anti-roll bar for it, which is kind of worrying. I'm assuming this bit used to go there. Well, other than the anti-roll bar, there was nothing exciting in there. So let's crack on, start stripping this down. Not gonna lie, that was one of the easiest rear bumpers I have ever taken off a car. Well done, Nissan. Well done. Man, that damage is quite severe. If you look at the good side of the car, look at the angle that it curves. And then if you look at this side, this should all be out here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to try and get as much of the wiring out of this area as we can, get it all into the boot where possible. Some of it I know just won't go. We'll try and get as much of it into the boot as we can, because obviously this bit is going to be getting quite a lot of welding, hammering, pulling, all kinds of crazy words. And we don't want to get the wiring snagged in it if we can. So let's crack on. Right, so the only cable I can't get out at the moment is for this box that's in here, which is kind of annoying, but once we pull this out properly, should be able to get to that no bother at all. So the next thing on the list is, because we're taking off all of this, we're going to need to remove the inner quarter trims. But before we do that, rather than doing one epically long video at some point in time about taking all the vinyls off, let's just do it bit by bit when I need a break from working on the car itself. And I think right now, we're just going to remove this piece. So have you ever been working on a second-hand car and thought to yourself, somebody's done this before? Yeah, the back of this car has been out more than once. A lot of those bolts were loose. The seats were hardly even held in. But that's all the interior that I need to take out for just now. And if the worst comes to the worst, I can sell all the parts for the car, because they're amassing quite quickly. So next on the list is get the car up in the air for two reasons. We want to see if this anti-roll bar actually belongs to this car. I want to get this wheel off, try and knock some of this damage back a bit, just so it's not rubbing off the tyre every time I try and move the car. Let's take out the trusty, but not sponsored, Quick Jacks, and get the car up in the air. Right, so looking underneath the car trying to figure out where that anti-roll bar goes, I can't see anything missing, which kind of makes me wonder if it's for the front. So by the looks of it, that's the anti-roll bar for this car, which means that this one's either a spare, not for this car and somebody at Copart put it in the boot, or it's an uprated one. Not really sure. So we'll move that to one side for just now. And what we'll do now is we'll get the arch liner out, because we're going to need it out of the way in order to start fixing all of this. Right, so before we take a look at the damage properly, I think I've bashed that back far enough now that I should be able to get the wheel on and it won't rub, which is awesome. And unfortunately, I forgot to hit record when I was removing the full length of the side skirt. I apologise for that. But you should see how they stuck this thing on. So on the Skyline, the side skirts bolt into these all the way down the car. But whoever put these side skirts on, as you can see from this, decided to just use panel bond all the way down. So I had to use a knife to cut them off, which is a bit annoying, but it is what it is. We'll try and secure them properly when we put it back on eventually. And the reason why I took the side skirt off is because we're replacing the entire quarter, you need to find out where the quarter actually finishes. And on the Skyline, the quarter panel finishes right there. At some point, we're also going to need to remove that quarter glass, that plastic trim, and the whole rear glass window, so we can get all the seams for the quarters. But for just now, let's take a look at the damage and see how bad it really is. And I warn you right now, it's pretty bad. Right, so obviously we've already seen this angle of how bad the damage is pushed in. But as you can see here, inside the boot, the actual boot floor is crumpled. This is all jacked up. It's crumpled here, it's crumpled up here. Yeah, it's in quite a bad state. But thankfully on the Skyline, it actually looks as if this section, which is the damaged section, looks like it's one section on its own and not part of the entire boot. So I might get away with not having to replace the entire boot floor, which would be great. Luckily the inner wheel arch isn't destroyed at all. And as you can see on this side, it's not damaged either. It's really just all this that's damaged. So looking at this bit, you should not be able to put your fingers through there. It's obviously burst the spot welds. As you can see there, they just burst them clean off. And obviously, as we've already seen, this part here should be sitting like this. So as is pretty obvious, the car hit it in this direction. And so what I think I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to get it put on a jig and get somebody who really knows what they're doing to pull the damage back out, because I cannot fix this with the tools I have in my garage. And don't get me wrong, I really wish that I could, but sometimes you're better just leaving these things to the professionals. What they'll do is they'll put it on a jig and they'll pull all this damage back out in the same way that the car pushed it in. And what that should do is it should pull all this back round, it'll pull all of this back out to where it's meant to be, and then it'll just be a case of undrilling all the spot welds that hold all this on, removing the quarter, removing and replacing this section here, and then we should be pretty much good to go. So I think that's going to be the end of this week's episode, guys and girls, because I'm going to have to go and find somebody that has a jig that can repair that damage for me. Hope you enjoyed the episode. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the wheel back on, get it down off the ramps, so that when I do find a shop that has a jig, I can actually get the car to them so they can give me a quote. And as always, I hope you're keeping well and I hope you're keeping safe. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.